Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I rarely ever say all that other stuff, like you can also find me at, but I have an Instagram that's Stitches and Slapdashery as well. And if you want to look at my Ravelry project pages, that's Nicolaknits on Ravelry. And I also have a blog, nicolaknits.com, which I have been writing for about 15, 20 years, feels like. It's a long time anyway. A really long time. Mostly what I'm doing is just a monthly update on the blog right now because I pour most of my energy into this vlog now. So, Mr. Stitches and I are due to go out for a walk in about 15 minutes, so I'll see what I can pack in to 15 minutes. We had a really hot weekend and we got a good hike in yesterday, which was really sweaty, but very pleasant also. We made sure to go somewhere where there was at least some shade, at least some of the time. And at the halfway point, we were by the lake, sat on a log for a while, and dipped my hands in the water and kind of splashed myself because it was hot. And then we spent probably an hour in our favorite tea shop afterwards. And I didn't have a latte this time. Normally I have a tea latte like a matcha or something. And I thought, no, I really, really, really want a date square. So I'll just have a really basic tea to go with that. Otherwise it gets a little much. So let me just show you some of the things I've made since we last talked. I have made a Bummity Bum Bag by Diane Spencer-Ogg. It's a free pattern of hers. Most of her designs are far more complex and are paid patterns, but this is a freebie. She's got a YouTube tutorial for it, and it's a neat idea because it has a channel on the back, which you can just thread one of your own belts through. Now, I'm a little concerned that if there was a lot of pulling right here, where the stitching ends, that it might tear the vinyl. I'm not sure. But I used my lovely coral dyed denim that I still have some left over from making that bag, and of course a rainbow zipper. And what did I put as the lining? Oh, I used that nice robin fabric as the lining. So that was an easy make. Diane's videos are really good and didn't come a cropper. Is that a really British expression? I didn't come a cropper with anything. It all went pretty smoothly. It does have 90-degree corners at the top when you cut pieces out. When you try and push them out, they end up being angled like that, and I couldn't make them go any further out than that. But maybe if you used a thinner fabric, that would work okay. So I was pleased with that. I'm not sure I'm going to make a ton of them, so that one might just be for me to coordinate with my other bag. Another thing I made, I looked through my zippers in my stash, and I have a bunch of metal ones. And you know, with metal ones, you can't cut them really or sew across them. You've really got to use them in their entirety if you can. So I took a red zipper and a piece of taupe denim. So this is sort of a taupe leg from a pair of men's pants, I guess, and a red zipper with metal teeth. And I made this really, really long pouch. I thought maybe it could be used as a tool pouch by someone who likes more sort of neutral colors. Doesn't have to be a guy. I added a brass colored swivel hook on the end. And I'm thinking if you put any heavy tools in this, it might not stand up to it because I didn't like double stitch things or anything. But I used this deer fabric inside. It's got Canadian flag as an deer on and a bit of camo. Not normally my bag at all. My bag. No pun intended. But I got some for free. And I decided to use some up on this bag. So it's really long. It's like 16 inches long. And, you know, I can put it on my market table and see if anyone wants it. Someone might love it. Another thing I've been sewing is a denim hobo bag. I found a really good tutorial on YouTube from Notches Sewing, and I've been following her on YouTube for quite some time. I really like her voice. She has a very calming voice. And she made a hobo bag out of 2 denim legs. So really you'd have to have a whole pair of jeans for this. You only need a couple of belt loops or a little scrap for the little loops she adds to the bag, but you need at least 2 full legs. So you don't need a pattern for this. What you do is you cut out one of the seams on each of the legs and then just draw what you need to cut in chalk. So it uses most of the legs, and then you cut the same 2 pieces out of lining, and then you add a pocket. So there's a slip pocket inside. Where'd it go? Oh, other side. A slip pocket to which I did remember to add my label. And it's fairly plain on the outside, but because she incorporates a couple of loops inside and out, and I actually use a piece of hem rather than a belt loop, you can clip something to the outside or clip your keys to the inside. So with the piece of lining that I had cut out for this part of the handle, I made a tiny little matching zipper pouch that clips on there. The fabric's the same inside and out. It was just like a continuous zipper pouch. And I used a bit of continuous zipper tape that I bought from Warwalk ages ago, and that was the last zipper pull I had on that roll. So it's a bit annoying really, because I've got a lot of the zipper tape left over and no more pulls for it. Oh well. So I'm pleased about that. Let me see if I can show it to you better. So it fits nicely over the shoulder. It's really roomy. Lots and lots of space to carry your stuff for the beach or whatever. And I think I'm going to have to make a couple more. I feel like they might be something people would want to buy. And I'd really like to make the next one with a pieced fabric. Maybe some large squares to make a sort of patchwork lining. But this idea to make a little coordinating pouch came to me when I was out walking the other day, and I was either halfway through this bag or I was about to start it, and I suddenly thought, bing, light bulb moment. And I thought a little matching pouch on the outside would look really cool. A little digression from the sewing for a minute. There has been some crochet. I made chickens. These are not emotional support chickens. They're just called Chubby chickens. And I crocheted them with 2 strands of lion brown mandala. I just pulled from each end of the cake at the same time, so double-stranded. And I made them exactly as written. It's not really an official pattern on Ravelry. One of the Ravelry users has a link to it in her project page. So it's by Look a Hook on Ravelry. I'll put the name on the screen. And if you go to Look a Hook's Ravelry project page, you'll find a couple of chicken projects. And in the notes, she's put a link to the pattern. I don't think she's actually published it as an official Ravelry pattern or anything. And it assumes a certain knowledge of crochet. It doesn't say anything about what yarn to use, what hook to use. So really, it's up to you. You could use really, really thick yarn. You could use like 5 strands of worsted weight if you wanted to. This was 2 strands of DK, and this one came out about 4 inches tall, and this one's about 2 inches tall. And they're very cute and simple. You just start at the bottom, work up, seam across the top. This is incorporated when you're making it, and then you just add this little comb and eyes and a beak. Very, very easy and quick. I made both of those in one day. And if you wanted them to be really stable and sort of not be too tippy, you could put some beans in the bottom. I just used polyester stuffing. I may have mentioned before that I was experimenting with sourdough bread. I've tried a couple of different tutorials online, and the one I'm really liking right now is by King Arthur Flour, I think, and I'll have to find the link to that. And he took somebody else's sort of 24-hour instruction, how to start from putting your starter in the bowl with your ingredients to eating your bread. It's about 24 hours, maybe a little more. And he had adjusted the quantities a little bit. And really, when you first look into sourdough bread, it really looks like it's so precise. You've got to do everything to the gram and you've got to do everything to the minute, and it just seems like it's too much hard work. I'm finding it's not as bad as it sounds, because if it's warmer weather, things can go quicker. If it's cooler weather, things can go slower. You're not going to damage your bread if you handle it slightly different than they tell you. So I've been experimenting with this one, and it's about 3/4 white flour and 1/4 of another flour. The first one was whole wheat. It was a bit dense, but also I didn't allow it the full 12 hours in the fridge the second time around. And then yesterday we had one that was 1/4 spelt. And that one's come out quite dark with the spelt flour in. And I did kind of make a mess of that one. It was going beautifully. And then, because I put it on parchment for the second rise, and I did not put it in the fridge, I put it on the table with a cloth over it, it stuck to the parchment really badly. So when I tipped it into the tin, I'm having to like scrape it off the parchment paper. And it looked a bit lumpy on the top, but it still tasted good. The beauty of the bread is that all the experiments still taste good. That's my experience anyway. Because I had that sticking issue yesterday, I decided I wanted to have a look at those bannetons that people use. You know, the fancy bowls that cost so much money if you look on Amazon or wherever, like $45 each or something crazy. So what did I do? I decided I could make one myself. I had this stuff hanging around in my sewing room. It was a whole package of this, and it's clothesline, and it's 3/16 of an inch wide, 100 feet, or 30.5 meters, and it's poly cotton. It's cotton with a polyester core. And so I've played around with a couple of rope bowls before, but I decided to do it again. And so I think this came out really, really well. I'm very pleased with this. Here's my rope bowl, aka my banneton, for making sourdough bread. So there's a billion tutorials for this on YouTube, and really, you just learn by doing, really. It's not hard. You just need the clothesline, and you need a heck of a lot of thread. I think I used at least 3 bobbins full. So I made it flat until I got to 6 inches diameter, and then I started to curve it, and it eventually ended up being about 10 inches across. I didn't quite use the whole package. At some point, I thought, this is taking forever. The pile on the floor doesn't seem to be diminishing at all. So anyway, I decided to add a little bit of a bump out there, which of course you don't need unless you want to hang it up. And then once I had got to 3 layers past the bump out, I finished off. It's really sturdy. And it doesn't really matter that it's poly cotton or whatever. The dough is never going to touch this. So what I've done with this, we just got interrupted because apparently I've gone over my time allowance. Anyway, what was I saying? So yes, the ones that you buy, the commercial ones, have a linen cloth inside them. It usually fits really neatly over the outside, you know, and snugly to the bowl. And I thought I could try and figure out how to do that. Or I could just make a couple of linen cloths that fit inside the bowl like this. I can flour it. I can put my dough in there. And originally I was going to do 2 bowls, which I still am going to do because the batch of bread I make makes 2 loaves. I was going to do 4 cloths because I thought I'll have 1 cloth going underneath for each bowl. And then I'll have a second cloth, which I can dampen and go over the top while it's rising in the fridge. And then I thought, wait a second, I made these so big because I basically just cut them half the width of the fabric. So they're about 25 inches square. I've made them big enough that I could probably just use 1 cloth, put my dough in and just fold it over it. Maybe dampen the outside corners a little bit so it doesn't dry out. Why not? So I need to go back to Home Depot and buy another package of this stuff and get on it. I have to tell you, it's the most boring sewing you'll ever do. You feel like this robotic drone just sitting there going it just goes round and around and around and around. You're like, isn't it big enough yet? Can't I finish now? I find it very boring. But the product that it makes is A, useful, and B, impressive. I think so anyway. Yeah, some people do a fancy trim at the end there. I just doubled it back on itself and then just zigzagged over it. I used a pretty wide zigzag. When you're first starting and it's really fiddly, I used a wider zigzag, like 7, and then after a couple of rounds I did a 6. And then for the majority I did a zigzag that was 5 wide and 1.5 long. And that seemed to work really well. And it makes a really, really solid fabric. So there we go. I'll just pop that linen into the laundry and make sure it's all clean and freshened up for my next batch of sourdough. And the awesome thing about the linen is I got it for nothing. There was about 5 meters of it and I got it for nothing. So each of these bowls is going to cost about $10 and the linen was free. So that's way cheaper than buying them new. Sunday morning hike. It's hot and sunny and I'm out of breath already. But it is very beautiful here. Again. Do you love my crochet basket? Isn't it perfect for holding scraps of fabric? I crocheted this a long time ago out of multiple strands of random yarn, and it's full This is the weeded out pile of scraps. I tossed a bunch of really small scrappy things a while back. So I saw something on one of my YouTube subscriptions the other day where the person who does sewing had all of her scraps, well, a lot of her scraps anyway, pre-cut into squares and sorted by size. How awesome is that? So as you'll see, I've got a 2-inch pile started, a 3-inch pile, a 4-inch pile, and a 5-inch pile, and I've got room for a 6-inch pile. I've just started this job, and I'm going to see if this helps me use up more scraps. Because I tend to find that that big bag of scraps is a little bit overwhelming sometimes. I think I really need to use my scraps. I need to make some patchwork fabric so that I can line bags with it and blah, blah, blah. And then I end up just using regular yardage. And I'm getting really low on fabrics that I have large chunks of. That hobo bag I showed you earlier, that's a typical example of me using fabric that I bought to line bags with, and it was a big piece and I didn't have to think twice about it. The other one I made today is this one. The jean legs I used for this were starting to get a little stretched out in places, which I guess is the reason why the person who got rid of them didn't want to wear them anymore. Probably the lycra's going here. So I ended up using those for my next bag. And for the inside, I used a... Let me just turn it right side out. You really can't see it, can you? I used a gorgeous quilt panel. And I do love brightly coloured fabrics, as you know. Can you see that? I'm going to have to go the other side of the camera. So that's the fabric I used, and it was a quilt panel. This is a pocket. I just used one of the squares off what was left. Make pocket. Got octopuses, dolphins, seahorses, crabs. It's really pretty. But it wasn't quite big enough to do the handles as well in one cut. So I ended up sewing extra pieces on for the inside of the top part of the handle, which was fine. Bit of an extra faff. And I did a 3/8 of an inch seam on this one, which I'm much happier about. It made barely any difference to the size of the bag. And then I made a really cute little zipper pouch out of the same range of fabric to go with it. So I think to feel fully ready with my new product for the market, I'm going to make 3. But rather than go diving in and making a 3rd whole bag this evening, I'm going to do this scrap job for a while. I think it's probably pretty unlikely that I will get to the bottom of this bag in one session. Look at this weird thing. This is a scrappy sort of stitch and flip thing that I did a long, long time ago on some interfacing. I'm not sure I'm going to keep that. I've had it for years and I still haven't used it. But after I spoke to you yesterday, was that yesterday? Yes, it was. After I spoke to you yesterday, showed you my other stuff that I had made, we went out for a walk. And I didn't hear back from the place I had given my resume to. Rather than try multiple places at once, I sent it into one place and followed it up with a physical visit, because that was my first choice for getting a new job. And they didn't call me. So I tried another one today. So this morning was spent applying for a job, sewing a bag, and then this afternoon was going for another walk and cooking chickpeas for tonight's hummus and cooking potatoes for the potato salad. These 2-inch squares are really tiny. I don't know what those are going to become. This is a good sized piece. This robin. I love this robin fabric. I hope other people do too. Another job I need to do before the other market I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go through all my product. I'm going to get it all out of the bags again. It's still in the bags that it came home from the last market in. And I'm going to review my prices. I watch Christine's Home Affairs a lot. And when she makes bags, she gets a lot of her fabric for free. She gets upholstery samples and that sort of thing. And then at the moment, she's working her way through boxes and boxes of some fabric that she got from some people whose mum died. And because she gets a lot of her fabric for free, she sews for her shop, and she doesn't charge for the fabric she gets if she gets it for nothing. She does charge for her time. And she rates her time at $45 an hour. And I'm thinking, if I did my product, sold my products based on $45 an hour, no one would ever buy anything. But because, of course, her expenses are low, she can do that. It works out for her. And I really love that she values her time so highly, because most of us don't, for whatever reason. I think in my case, it's like I don't know. I guess I don't know if the word's humility or not being confident enough. Maybe it's just a lack of confidence. But the prices I put on my products for the market last weekend were definitely too low. But the funny thing was, they still didn't particularly sell well. There was a woman who came back to my table 3 times because she said, I'm really drawn to your things. I really love them. I love your attention to detail. And she bought one $5 little zip pod, one of those round ones that I did a tutorial for. So even though she seemed to like my stuff, she still wasn't really ready to spend a lot of money. And that was a bit of a shame. There's nothing I could do about it. I'm not going to twist people's arms. I'm not going to go around the other side of my market table and say, look, you have to buy this, this, and this. I've never been the sort of person who sells people on stuff. Some people have got the gift of the gab, and they don't have any hesitation in giving someone the full spiel. If they feel they can get a sale, they'll push. And I've just never been like that. This is Slapdashery is back at it. I think I'm going to have a heck of a lot of 2-inch squares. But hey, I'll probably have a lot of fun turning it into patchwork at some point. Oh, this is a quilt square from a quilt I made for a friend last year whose house burnt down in the big fires we had last year. I don't know if you watched my vlogs last summer. That would have been August last year. And we had one of our worst fires yet in this area. One of them, not the worst probably, but one of them. And it got awfully close, but we knew people who actually lost their homes in that. And I decided to make this friend a quilt so that when she'd got a new home, it could be something new to put in it. And she has bought a new house with her partner now, so hopefully she's enjoying using her new quilt. They are warning us, of course, that this could be another bad year for forest fires. We've already had quite a lot in BC, British Columbia. If you're subscribed to Stitches and Slapdashery, you might notice I've done a couple of shorts this week. I don't know about you. I'd love to know your input on this. Do you watch shorts? Do you like them? It's basically just a short video. Sometimes it's speeded up, sometimes it's real time, and it's vertical. And I think it was YouTube's answer to TikTok, something which I have never been on. And I don't know about you, but I don't particularly like them because they don't show you all the information about what the person is doing in the video. They don't really do much for me. And I wasn't really going to bother. But it would seem that YouTube likes to see people, A, making videos regularly, and B, doing shorts, because it seems to me that you can get further on YouTube if you do what they like you to do. And I'm not saying I want to bow down to the YouTube gods and just do things because they say so. But you know what? If the shorts give me a further reach and get more people subscribing to my channel, I suppose that's a good thing, right? Because there's a strong possibility that some people will only watch shorts and they don't want to sit through a 30-minute or a 60-minute video of me blathering along or whatever I do. I suppose they appeal to different people. I feel like having a little short video is a way to have like a little trailer for something that's coming up. Some people seem to have their shorts published for something they've already done. So they'll publish the full-length one, and then a couple of days later you'll see a shorts, which is basically a segment of what they already did. And that just seems kind of odd to me. But I'm not averse to using some of the clips that I take as I'm building a blog and putting them up as a short so that you can see what's coming. But I'm also very aware of the fact that there is so much content out there on YouTube now that no one's got time to watch it all. I see people doing April daily vlogs, May daily vlogs, and I did Vlogtober and Vlogmas last year. That was quite the learning curve, especially as I was pretty new to vlogging at the time. And I had the time to do it last year because I wasn't working at that time of the year. So I had plenty of time to upload every day. So no promises as to whether I'll be doing that this year or not. I am trying to get a part-time job right now, which will probably be 3 days a week if it works out. I don't want to work weekends. I've got the market through the summer on Sundays. And then it would be nice to have the Saturday free to spend time with my family and also get ready for the market on the Sunday. Pack my car with all the stuff I need to take. And I think that might put some employers off, because when you're in retail, they do love you to work all the hours that you can. When I was at the fabric store, I was assistant manager, and I had to work every other weekend. And when I was leaving, I said to myself, okay, when I get another job, I don't want to work weekends. I want to have the weekends with my husband. He works Monday to Friday. I want to only work between Monday and Friday. And that way we can have the weekends together. And then, of course, I quit for various reasons in the summer, end of August-ish. And then, of course, in December, he got his cancer diagnosis, and it was like, okay, well, I'm not going back to work until he's got through this. So he got through his treatment, and he's back to work now. He's part-time this week, but working back up to full-time. And I thought, well, this is the perfect time for me also to go back to work. And so I am telling any prospective employers that I'm not willing to work weekends. And I think a lot of them won't like that. So what with the markets every week this summer. And I'm on a committee for a festival in September, and getting a part-time job and making my YouTube content. I think I'm going to be pretty busy. Do you want to know something really funny? I've been chatting for like 20 minutes now, and I forgot to put my lamp on so that you could see this in good light. I have the overhead light on, and it's still daylight, so there's some light coming through the window. I won't change it now. I think you can see what I'm doing. That's if you're still with me. You might have got bored with me yakking on by now and fast forwarded me or switched me off. As you can see, my scrap bag and I could be busy for a very, very long time. I've just made a few tiny piles of squares and haven't even made a dent in it yet. So I'm not sure how much of that waffle I'll leave in. I got a little carried away there, and I can't believe I forgot to even plug in my ring light. It wasn't that I had plugged it in and forgotten to switch it on. I didn't even plug it in. I brought it across the room from where it was behind my sewing table there, and yeah. Then I put my phone on it, pressed record, and boom, there I am, yakking away for ages, cutting fabric, no light. So thanks for watching. Glad that you're here. Glad that you're happy to sit around and listen to me waffle on. Do leave a comment if you've got any ideas for little scrap projects. Not quilts. I don't think I've got the willpower to cut enough squares, small squares for a quilt. But yeah, ideas for small scrappy projects. And also, let me know about the shorts thing. I know I said earlier about whether you watch just full-length videos, just shorts, bit of both, whatever, and it would be interesting to know. So I'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful week.